On the evening of Sunday the 28th of November 2004, a man walked up to a house in Nairn and rang the doorbell. Not a mansion, not a crime lord's home, not a place that looked like it belonged in a murder case. Just a family house on Crescent Road. Inside was 30-year-old Alistair Wilson, a Bank of Scotland business manager, his wife Veronica, and their 2 young sons. The man at the door asked for Alistair by name. A few minutes later, Alistair was handed a blue envelope. On it was one word: Paul. He went back inside, confused. Then he returned to the doorstep. And moments later, he was shot. 3 times. The killer disappeared into the dark. And more than 20 years later, Scotland is still asking the same question. Who killed Alistair Wilson? This case is not strange because there are no clues. It is strange because there are clues everywhere. The envelope, the gun, the planning dispute, the hotel across the road, the witness sightings, the drain where the weapon was found, the public appeals, the reinvestigation, and yet, after 2 decades, no one has been convicted. That is what makes the Alistair Wilson case so unsettling. It does not feel empty. It feels interrupted, as if the answer came right up to the front door, left behind a symbol, and vanished before anyone could read it. Nairn is not the kind of place most people associate with a targeted doorstep shooting. It is a Highland town on the Murray Firth. Quiet streets, sea air, family homes, local businesses. That ordinary setting matters. Because this was not a random shooting in a city centre. The killer went to Alistair Wilson's house, asked for him by name, waited while he went inside, then shot him when he came back out. That sequence suggests purpose. It suggests planning, and it suggests the killer, or whoever sent him, knew exactly where Alistair would be. At around 7 o'clock that evening, Veronica Wilson answered the door. The man outside asked for her husband. Alistair came down. He spoke to the visitor. Then he came back inside holding the blue envelope. It was empty. The name Paul was written on it. That detail became the case's signature clue. Not because it explained the murder. Because it made the murder harder to understand. Was Paul a person, a code, a mistake, a warning, a way to make sure Alistair came back to the door? Nobody has ever given the public a confirmed answer. Think about the risk. If the killer's only goal was to shoot Alistair, why hand him anything? Why allow him to go back inside? Why create a physical object that could become evidence? The envelope feels almost theatrical. A prop in a crime that otherwise looks brutally direct. But it may also have served a practical function. It could have made Alistair pause. It could have made him curious. It could have created a reason for him to return to the doorway alone. The killer did not force entry. He did not attack the family inside. He brought Alistair back to the threshold. And that is where the shooting happened. After the shots were fired, Alistair was taken to hospital. He died later that night. A young father was gone. A family was broken. And one of Scotland's most baffling modern murder investigations began. The case quickly became more than a local tragedy. Because investigators were not just looking for someone violent. They were looking for someone who had walked into a quiet Highland street with a firearm and a plan. And the weapon itself only deepened the mystery. The gun used in the killing was later identified as an old pocket pistol. Not a common modern weapon. Not something normally associated with an everyday local dispute. According to reporting on the case, it was a Heinel Sewell pocket pistol from the 1930s. It was recovered from a drain near the Wilson family home. That creates another strange image. A killer fleeing into the night. A rare old gun discarded nearby. A weapon found, but no killer attached to it. In many murder cases, finding the gun is a major breakthrough. Here, it became another locked door. Across the road from the Wilson home was the Havelock Hotel. In 2004, a large decking area had been built outside. Alistair had objected to it. Police later said that objection was significant to the inquiry. The issue was not grand or cinematic. It was noise, litter, disturbance, a planning application, the kind of ordinary local tension that happens in towns all over Britain. And that is what makes the theory so chilling. Because if this line of inquiry is right, then Alistair Wilson may not have been killed because of a secret life or a criminal world. He may have been killed because he complained. Police said Alistair's objection was lodged with the local authority shortly before his death. They also said it was openly discussed in the hotel bar during the weekend before the murder. That timing is hard to ignore. Thursday, the objection is lodged. Friday and through the weekend, it is discussed. Sunday night, Alistair is shot dead on his doorstep. That does not prove motive, but it gives the case a shape. A disagreement becomes public, names are spoken, tempers may rise. Then a man appears at the door with a blue envelope and a gun. To be clear, this is not an accusation against the hotel, its owners, or any named individual. The point is narrower and more unsettling. Police believed the planning objection mattered. They wanted to know who was in the bar, what was said, who heard it, who took offense, who had access to a gun, and who might have been angry enough, or reckless enough, to turn a local dispute into a killing. That is the horror of this case. The possible motive does not sound large enough, and yet the outcome was irreversible. Police also appealed for information about two men reportedly seen with a handgun on East Beach in Nairn about a month before the murder. One was described as younger, the other older. The younger man was said to have been in possession of a handgun. That sighting matters because it suggests the weapon, or a weapon, may have been seen locally before the murder. Again, it does not solve the case, but it pulls the mystery closer to Nairn, closer to the streets, closer to people who may still know more than they have said. By 2024, the case had entered a new phase. Police Scotland announced a reinvestigation known as Operation Sabine. A team of officers began re-examining thousands of documents, statements, and actions from the original investigation. New forensic opportunities were being explored. A public portal was opened so people could submit information, anonymously if needed. That is important, because cold cases do not always turn on brand new evidence. Sometimes they turn on old fear wearing out. Someone who was silent in 2004 may feel differently now. Someone who heard a conversation may finally understand its meaning. Someone who thought the detail was too small may be holding the missing hinge. The murder of Alistair Wilson remains unsolved, but it has never stopped moving. The blue envelope still sits at the center of the story. A clue that looks simple and behaves like a riddle. Why Paul? Why empty? Why hand it over at all? Was it a message, a lure, a mistake, or the only surviving piece of a conversation we have never heard? Some crimes become mysteries because darkness hides everything. This one is different. A man came to a family home, asked for Alistair Wilson by name, handed him an envelope, waited, then fired 3 shots on a quiet Scottish street. 20 years later, the question is not just who pulled the trigger. It is who knew why that doorbell rang. And until that question is answered, the blue envelope remains one of the coldest objects in Scottish crime history.